And the message that was sent to those rulers around the world is if there's a power greater than any on earth that endows us with these rights, then no power on earth can take them away. Up until that point in time, every king, every queen, every tyrant believed they had those rights, that they gave them more rights. When you see a picture of that king holding up his scepter, or that Asian emperor holding the orb, those were symbols of their connection to heaven. They believed they were God on earth. They decided where we would live, who we would marry, when we would live or die potentially, whether we could own property. They determined when they could take our rights away. Jefferson said, no. The fellow said, wait a minute, these rights come from a higher level. You can't take them away. Each individual one of us has those rights. Those tyrants around the world said, this is ridiculous. Who are these brash Americans to think that they have these rights? They need a ruler to rule over them. You see, our form of government, of the people, by the people, for the people, means we the people lend the government the right to govern. We lend it to them. And when they become reckless and irresponsible, it is our responsibility to take back that right. Our responsibility and our right. And that's what we hear about tonight, exercising that responsibility. We know we have the right. The question is, do we have the guts to do it when the time comes? They said it couldn't work. They said individual people, they need a ruler over them, they need them to control their lives. But you know what? It did work. And freedom and liberty rolled across this nation from sea to shining sea like a thunderstorm across the prairie, delivering more freedom and more prosperity to more human beings than the world has ever seen. But in the last decades, I think we've begun to see that idea of individual liberty slowly slipping away from us with the growth of big government. I'm going to talk to you about the core principles and where they came from. You see, America is built on two pillars, social pillars. Our political system of democracy, our elected republic form of government. The second pillar is our economic model. You see, America was quite unique in another way. We were the first capitalist nation in modern history. It was a nation based on a new economic model by an economist, a man named Adam Smith, this fellow here. Adam Smith's book, The Wealth of Nations, today is considered the seminal handbook on free market economics. His ideas of capitalism, the belief in the individual, that each individual should be free of the restraints of government to grow to their highest possible potential, was revolutionary when his book, The Wealth of Nations, was published in 1776, the same year as the Declaration of Independence. Adam Smith's book, The Wealth of Nations, became the handbook of the Founding Fathers, the basis on which they developed the American theory of free market economics, of capitalism. And that capitalism grew this nation faster than any other nation in the world. The belief that each individual should accelerate to their highest potential, and in doing so will elevate the world around them, everyone around them. And for decades it worked. You know, New Jersey was the lowest taxed of all 50 states in this country up until 1966. We were the lowest taxed state. Low taxes, low government regulations made us the fastest growing economic state in the nation. At the end of my presentation, you'll see what's happened in the last 40 years. But, you know, the teachings of Adam Smith became a little tarnished over time, and the teachings of Adam Smith were brought back into modern-day thinking and economics by this gentleman you see up here, Milton Friedman. Anybody who doesn't know Milton Friedman is an economist, a Nobel Prize winner. I knew Milton Friedman personally. I had the opportunity to learn from him. He was an advisor to many presidents and countries, as you can see in a moment. You know, the opposite of the teachings of Adam Smith is the teachings of this guy. Anybody recognize him? Karl Marx. Karl Marx, the father of communism. Communism, quite the opposite of capitalism. We all learned to be afraid of communism and what it meant. It meant simply giving up your individual identity and your individual freedom to something called the good of the whole, the common good. Right? Where individuals are morphed into one big mass of humanity. Right? The teachings of Karl Marx were converted into modern day thought and policy by this gentleman, a guy by the name of Dag Hammarskjöld. Now you're all sitting here saying, what are we talking about? Dag Hammarskjöld sounds like an ice cream company or something, right? You'll understand at the end of my presentation why I'm taking you down this path. Dag Hammarskjöld was the UN Secretary in the 1950s. He's considered the father of planned central economies and planned central government, and had quite an influence around the world. But you know, in my lifetime, all of our lifetimes, I think there's been one president who has done more to provide capitalism in this country, and that's Ronald Reagan. Remember 1977, 78, 79, double-digit inflation, double-digit unemployment. The country was demoralized. We felt we were slipping away in our role in the world. Gas was regulated, gas lines. We had government regulation of gas prices. We had high taxes on the oil companies. When Ronald Reagan came into office, he had quite a problem. Quite a problem. He brought in an advisor, a gentleman by the name of Milton Friedman, and his team of economists. They were called supply-side economists. And they advised Ronald Reagan to cut spending, cut taxes, cut government regulations, and put money back into the pocket of individuals. Well, the press immediately went on the warpath. Supply-side economics, trickle-down economics, remember? All code words for capitalism. They didn't want to use that word. It was capitalism. And they went on the attack and they said, this isn't going to work. If we cut the size of government, we're going to lose programs and people are going to be starving in the streets. And Reagan pushed through his economic policies and it launched the most powerful growth of prosperity in American history. The period of Reaganomics right through till, the last half a century. We've seen that tremendous economic growth. You're being told constantly how capitalism is evil. I'm going to tell you in the next 15 minutes that capitalism brings more peace, more prosperity, more health and safety, and more freedom than any other economic model in the world. And will continue to do so. But to do that, I want to take you on a little trip around the world and see, what it's done, because I don't think there's a day that I wake up that I don't read a newspaper or see some stupid news story that talks about how in this country the rich are getting richer and the poor are getting poorer. That we need to be more like Cuba. We need to adopt the programs of places like Europe. How often have you heard the rich are getting richer, right? The income gap is growing. And we hear it all the time. I heard it the other day in a newspaper in this state. Yeah. Let's dispel that rumor, because it's not true. See, there's a terrific organization called the Steer Institute. They're a nonpartisan free market think tank. And the Steer Institute accumulated nationally all the income data for American citizens. And they concentrate on California. I'm going to take you to California for a second. They took all the California income data for the last 25 years. And they divided it into 5 quintiles. The top quintile, the upper income class. The fourth quintile, the upper middle. Third, second, lowest quintile. And they demonstrated that, according to the IRS and the Federal Bureau of Statistics, between 1985, when Ronald Reagan's economic policies kicked in, and 2003, that's the last census, that the wealthiest people in California watched their incomes grow. Now, this is adjusted for inflation. Their incomes went up 7%. So the wealthiest in California got a little richer, 7%. But as you move down the chart, the third and fourth quintile, that's your upper middle income class, their income's up a little over 9%. The middle income, so their income's up a little over 15%. The lower middle, that's your second tier, their income's up a little over 24%. But the lowest income bracket, so their income's up a whopping 107%. Their incomes grew 15 times faster than the wealthiest. These numbers extrapolate out across the country, right to New Jersey. The fact is that between the 1980 Ronald Reagan policies and today, the income gaps in this nation have narrowed, and they've narrowed significantly. And the people that have benefited the most are those in the lower income. Sure, the rich got a little richer, but remember, America's about opportunity. If you were in that lowest income bracket, 1984, 85, you've had the opportunity to work hard and to move up the ladder. Maybe today you're in the second, third, or even the top bracket. Because America's about opportunity, other countries aren't. So the income gap is narrow. And the rhetoric you hear out of liberal media is not true. You take out of California for a minute to a place called Chile, South America. Chile, because I spent a lot of time there in 1978. When I was in Chile in 1978, Chile had adopted the planned central economic policies of one Dag Hammarskjöld around 1960. The government ran businesses, they regulated, they eliminated local governments, they went to central